All right. Hello, everybody. My name is Rafael Chacín, as known as El Capitán Rafucho. And of course, we're here with a special episode of Let Them Speak. And before that, we have a special guest because we're going to break it down those fights at UFC 301, which is from Brazil. I know it's in South America because it is the perfect country for those sunny beaches, also for women, Brazilian food, Copacabana, and of course, there's a lot of great music as known as samba, bossa nova. I mean, you can have it. And of course, we just got an amazing guest right here. So you might know as one of those part of the crew of the Against the Fence right now to join us for this amazing adventure heading out for Brazil, breaking it down for those fights. Here it is, ladies and gentlemen, Sai from Against the Fence. So how's it going? Welcome.
Hey, thanks for having me, Raf. Thanks for having me. It's actually it's an honor to be here again. It's my second time on the show.
Yeah.
Love it. Enjoy the conversation. You're a great, a great host. Let's say
Mm-hmm.
great interviewer, and I just enjoy talking about fights with you, Raf. That's to be quite frank. You're a funny
All
guy.
right. Yes. And I just wanted to tell you because right now they had the co-main event, which is
Yeah,
gonna be like a very back. I mean, lately because they just haven't to find a way between Jonathan Martinez versus Jose Aldo, which is like what are these combats? I mean, everything is gonna be like a small delay, but I really thought it's gonna be so really important. But they also had to do it for this camp because of the ritmo. Because I was wondering because he was like very waiting. He was waiting for that fight, and it's gonna be like an all-time favorite fight. Again, it was good, but at this time right now, because not only he wants to do like a fight in Saudi Arabia, because he has only one fight that left at the UCF deal. Because the only way that with the fight for the UFC again, this fight is over during proposes, and it's basically multi-financial. Because also they're not gonna miss it at all right now, but I think it's gonna be between the battle between grappling, striking. Also, they had to go for the return. It's gonna be because initially because they had Jose Aldo versus Dominic Cruz, but during that issue because of the booking, I mean they just had it up with Jonathan Martinez versus Jose Aldo, but it's gonna be like in the same. They had it strange because they all rank in the same division. And they never got out of the fight in 125. Only those fights that are going to see that again because right now is for the comeback. It makes sense because there'll be a lot of opposed to the hard training, but right now it seems that they have a very great at grappling, wrestling, but I know there's gonna be like a very like a close call.
yeah.
So how you thinking about for this fight between Jonathan Martinez versus Jose Aldo, which is like a comeback for one of the greatest Brazilian fighters of the UFC ever in the history?
Yeah, no, it's an exciting fight to see. Largely because I just love seeing Jose Aldo, and I'm glad you brought up the fact he is coming back after having some time out. 2 years, I believe he was out, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And so with that, you kind of wonder what's the motive? Why are you here? Is your heart going to be in it? In fact, I was just talking to a good friend of mine just a moment ago about how this matchup is coming to happen, or even why it's happening, and also I just couldn't make sense as to whether it was a bit of a fight out your contract, make a bit of money thing, or whether Jose Aldo's heart's going to be in it at all. I would like to think his heart is going to be in it because look, he's going to be in front of his fellow countrymen, and this is his last time to really shake a leg on the canvas. So, and he's known as the King of Rio. So, with all that said, you kind of have to do this in a pretty big way, and I think if you're looking at Martinez also, if he was able to get the win in this fight, then it'd just be something you'd be telling your grandchildren. I was wondering if that was me, I might be a little bit starstruck. I'm seeing off the King of Rio in his hometown for his last fight ever. Is that going to affect your game plan and how you're going to fight? What we do know for a fact is both of these guys are tremendous kickers, right? We do know, of course, with Jose Aldo, he is renowned for his kicks in historically as a veteran. He was revered for him. He really kind of changed the game. And if anything, I'm pretty sure Martinez learned a lot of what he has based on off of styles or what Jose had shown him before. So you can see this different generational fighter really coming through and perfecting a technique which was laced by the original veteran himself. The issue is, of course, as of late, we have seen Jose Aldo relent from throwing those leg kicks. He's thrown a lot less recently. I do think when it comes to the experience, he has a lot more experience with them. So avoiding them is going to be important to bear in mind. I think he's going to be able to do that against someone like Martinez. If anyone can get out of the way of those leg kicks or see them coming or be able to check them, Jose Aldo would be able to. And of course, boxing seems to be his new bag. It's his passion. And what do you do when you have a kicker who's very good in that kind of kicking range? You got to crowd him. You got to get in close. You got to be lacing your hands. I hope, and what I'm looking forward to seeing is how his shot selection has evolved. And that was good already, but having that more of a focus on boxing, I'm quite keen to see how he brings that to this fight, gets in close, and really lives in the pocket. Because once you're in the pocket, the kicks will be harder for Martinez to pull off. So,
yeah, because right now Jonathan Martinez is 8 years younger than Jose Aldo. It is all for his athletic career prime. I mean, he's currently getting the rating for a 6-5-1 straight that includes over Nogedun, Adrian Janes. I mean, it's a well-rounded feat that uses leg kicks to great effect. The typical factory adds homegrown talent, but also he's being underrated for the last few years after the shock loss of David Grain. I mean, logically, history will tell us that the younger and, of course, more conditioned Martinez should win. But if Aldo's gonna find like a special Brazilian doctor or some sort, if it's gonna be end up, very fortunate that Jose Aldo that we love that confidently big enough for Jonathan Martinez. But how are they gonna go for it? I mean, who's gonna win the fight? Because it all depends for the youth and of course for the experience. I mean, don't think about it as kind of like that because they're gonna only draw for the questions after the cage. But if Jonathan Martinez win, that could be the last dance for Jose Aldo because look at how flawed experience, and he was just like a former championship. But I think it's gonna be like really important. But it's gonna be like it is super interesting. But also he's been boxing with like a possible science what they call a short shape. But also it's not gonna loosen it up for the leg kicking game, which is when they won the landing with the leg strikes here. But it's kind of like a Martinez's most reliable weapons, but which is make like more get interesting.
Yeah, something about this matchup I didn't understand. Something about Jose Aldo coming back I couldn't quite get my head around, and I do feel like because it's something that has happened, it's not something that was supposed to happen. It's just something that we're running with. So, if you ask the question of who I think gets the fight done, I do feel like Martinez is probably going to be able to make the most of the opportunities on the night. I feel like those leg kicks are going to be pretty devastating from him. I feel like the mentality of Jose Aldo is going to be there, partially there, but I think it's going to quickly go when he gets underneath the heat of Martinez's kicks and realize that he's not going to be around for much longer. I mean, what is he fighting for if it's just one fight? It's really just to go out on his shield. And I think that for him is as good as a win. For Martinez, he can't lose. His goals are set higher. For Jose Aldo, his goals are set on entertaining the fans. And that can be done either by going out on his shield or by walking away with the win. So yeah.
Yeah, they could exactly. Also, we just wanted to give it a pass for another topic right now because this is gonna be so interesting. I mean, Alexandre Pantoja versus Steve Erceg. Now, it's not gonna be like a weird main event, but the fly division is gonna be like it started to fade again. But I think that we shouldn't show for the ceiling and below championship quality or those guys who are really active to keep like being shots. I mean, Steve Urgent from Australia has managed to back himself a title shot to 11 on the ranks, despite they have only 3 fights on the company. Aside from the fighters with the common for organization, I think that Pantoja against the most opponent because he's more than convinced that he's been championship caliber and it has multiple paths to victory every time. Because during for the Rapids stepping up for the competition, also it's just betting enough against Costa. What we knew about for the Sergey, which is Steve's Erceg, that some of the back strange are very actually in the areas that Pantoja looks to exploit. I mean, the Brazilian is one of the most durable fighters in the MMA history, having never been finished on 32 professional bouts, 14 took place in the UFC because here opponents started pushing, like creating a pacing, creating that chaos that knows how to be more durable fighter aside to that because he has a light submission game. Grappling is top notch, and his strike rate is not bad either. But
Yeah.
it doesn't sound like much other than nightmare to Ursa to a lot of guys because Steve has more to down for the UFC on the feet, but also he has to show up very impressive durably of the original scene. But also people forget that he's primarily a grappler. Haven't seen submissions on the record, but that's gonna be expected to be in favor to both areas. So it's gonna
Mhm.
be like a really tough. But I think that Alexander Pantoja could be like a more excited to see like retain this championship.
Yeah. Here's an interesting thing as well. I heard that this is the first time that he's fighting in front of his own crowd in 10 years. 10 years.
Mhm.
So you probably imagine he'll want to do something pretty spectacular for this one. I think that he's probably going to be someone who's going to want to run through Steve Erceg in a big way and just kind of add to the highlight reel. Pantoja strikes me as someone who's really focused on getting those defenses and getting them quick. He recognizes he's in his prime. He could effectively wait out a bit longer for a worthy, if you like, contender to come through. But why wait when you're in the prime of your life and you're performing so well? And he's done his job well, which is why he shouldn't be the one getting punished for it by having to wait for another contender to come through. He's just got to get out there and get them and get who he can. And Erceg is who he's got his eyes set on. My interesting thought would be who's next. You know, once if he does get a win against Erceg, then what comes next for Pantoja? Who is he going to be fighting next? It's a big question because again, it's going to be a busy one. I know there's Mohammed Makayev, who's hungry for that opportunity, and he wasn't too happy about being passed up by Erceg on this particular occasion. So that's always an interesting one for me to even ponder and think about. But yeah, back to Erceg on this one. I initially thought I saw the matchup on paper. I ruled Erceg out before even giving him a look in. But the more I've looked into this fight, the more I've looked at or I've heard things from the UFC countdown, the more I've really heard about who's in Erceg's corner and who he trains with. It's given me reason to doubt, given me reason to think actually it is very possible for him to come on in and upset the apple cart. Now I don't like those feelings because it makes me unsure. I was so certain before, and now I'm a little bit unsure. And I'm not sure how long I can remain in this limbo. But do I go with my initial thought and gut, thinking Pantoja is going to win it and get it done, or do I sort of get swerved by this lingering doubt I've got now of the potential of Erceg doing something truly nasty on the night and, as I say, upset the apple cart? It's tricky. He's got the power. He's got a potential in the hands. He could surprise us all. And I just really hope Pantoja is not underestimating him.
That's right. I mean, they have a lot of confidence, but I will say that because Patoka has been like a lesser favorite than the books because Ursa Sailing is still unknown. But I think the logic will dictate for this gonna be like very too soon. But I think that Ursa Jubility will obviously they're gonna later all of a sudden the fight because
Yeah.
it's not gonna be unexpected because there's all I had to go through already now because right now it seems like it's gonna be like a nightmare or they gotta go for like a dream. But if the Brazilian gate can't finish against an opponent as a real life
Mhm.
and its ability, with those very skills that are very good enough to get better at Brandon Moreno, it's definitely he can exploit like the most.
Yeah.
I mean, it's gonna be like it's something that I was. It's not that bad with it because it seemed like they have one of the best cars, but I think it is not gonna be like really disappointing. But if they
Mhm.
had to go for a 1-for-1, because right now after the UFC 299 and UFC 300, they had most tech pay per view, and I'm not gonna complain because they have an amazing fights. Also, they
Yeah.
just got Carlos Pereira versus Jamal Keel, Sean O'Malley versus Marlon Vera, and right now Alexander Pantoja versus Steve Erich. I mean, if you believe it had to discover star power, I mean, if they got a like a really enough because it's always entertainment and And some reason, one of those fighters that can finally got momentum because it's gonna be like an interesting fight, but it's gonna be like an absolutely like matchup. Also, there's another topic that we're talking about because this is gonna be like the last one because right now it's gonna be like a short interview for 20 minutes. So the preliminaries, I mean, how do you think about John Silva? Because we just see it like over this fights right now, and I think that John Silva is gonna be like one of the biggest prospects that we see on the UFC 301, which they have it a lot of. Because I gotta tell you, the talent they have, the Brazilians in the MMA, are undeniable because the
Mm,
grappling, jiu-jitsu, I mean, they're striking the leg work. I mean, it's unbeatable because Brazilians had a lot of work to do. And John Silva, it became like one of the most underdogs. And I will tell you for this one because the difference between punch power and speed, because he's being like a freak athlete, isn't big enough to be a light to the light, but they have a lot of star power. But I think that John Silva is gonna stall. He's gonna break it in down for all for this one, but it's not gonna be like the worst tape. But it's it's gonna like it's not gonna have a good performance. But I think he could show off of the technique because I know he's wearing glasses, but how they could show off of the technique and boom, it's gonna be like a excited to watch.
yeah, look, I guess so. He's John Silva. He's goes by White Bear, doesn't he?
Mm,
Yeah, that's the name they call him. He's submission artist. I think he's probably going to be submission is how he gets it done. He doesn't see many decisions. He hasn't gone the distance too many times and won. So I feel like he's a bit of a top-ended fight. It's got to be submissions, got to be with the hands. He's just probably going to get it and just be quite quick with it. And you often see with these cards, which people would deem to be sleepers. And the only reason why people consider this card to be a sleeper card, I think you rightfully alluded to earlier, the fact that UFC 300 is now in the rear mirror, of course, but it's not too far away. It's just 2 weeks down the line. And so we're still living in the shadow of what was an epic event. And naturally, you'll probably look at this event and think, yeah, I might sleep on this. And that's when you see the most knockouts, in my experience. That's when you see the most, not wouldn't say per se upsets, but most action for sure. And I do think that we might be off to a quick start on the night with this fight with John Silva on the right in the very beginning.
that's very good. I mean, it always has because I mean, John Cena he became like he just be like Wilson at this because it's one of those fights already waiting at the stuff at the moment. But I think it's gonna be like a really set off because he's just trying to be like Jordan Masako, and that was really insane. I mean, he seems like a very decent prospect, but he needs to do the work out of the he needs to have the call for demonstration about because I know that's it's gonna be like Johnson Brito and Johnny Walker. I mean, the new Brazilian era for the UFC is gonna be so loaded, so loaded. But I think it is gonna be like Heather deserve it for the fight because he would deserve like a really good push. But I think this good. It's very important to see because the exercise because it's gonna be like between the grappling, the striking, and of course for wrestling. But I think it's gonna be like adding like an external parameters to see how it go to leg work and of course for the hands. I mean, it's not gonna be to took at anything, but I really thought it's gonna be like a very interesting prospect. But also there's like a lot of things that go for like other for another prospect that they go for the C to do. I mean, there's also had to go for the preliminaries, which is very
Mhm.
good. And I just really thought it's gonna be like so happen because it just seemed because they had Joaquin Silva. They just got 13 wins and 5 losses, and they just kind of like very, very interesting about for against Recon Colts. I mean, look at Joaquin Silva for this one. I mean, it makes me everything that I was don't know how this is gonna be like
In the early
something.
prelims, yeah.
Yeah, it's very brilliant, but it's getting like he's like a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu with hands of stone. It is
Yeah.
getting like a very important than Paulo Costa because he like the attack and decide to give me like a brain damage. But I think it's gonna be like stuffy for a few shots in the contender because I think that we're gonna plan it at a time because I know this is gonna be like a first sort of positive. I mean, his positional grappling is very excellent because he just need like a more powerful fighter, better for this weight, and it's very interesting on the ground. But also, it's gonna be like his kids are very widely that previously showed that the kicks and the very fast and away, but like the stats kids to create like very separation. Also, where the
Mm.
curve really attacking the ground, he did like a fantastic ground for the pounding. Those are really weapons we display like a Brazilian jiu-jitsu playing the Jose Alvarez with the show off against Silva.
Yeah, I mean, doesn't he struggle a bit against wrestlers though, or heavy wrestlers? Joaquin Silva. I mean, I know he did great against Guida, but Armin Sarukian. I guess you can't really fault Armin Sarukian. He's up there now next for the title shot, I'd imagine. So yeah, personally, I think that you would not go too wrong if you sided with Brazil all across the card. Do you think that maybe Brazilians will be winning all across the card on the night?
Mm-hmm.
What
Yes.
Brazilian do you think is got his work really cut out for him on the card? As in less likely to be able to get that win given the competition he's facing up against. You really confident Joaquim Silva and John Silva?
I think it's gonna be like a really interesting question, but I really think because right now, what is one like in the mixing up of these kicks? I mean, to get a little body and pressure to create space for the takedowns. I mean,
Mm.
now there's gonna be like around the clinch because that performance is gonna be like at this level, whatever it takes for uppercuts, knees, but they gotta like definitely sound for the clinch, but it's gonna working it out for those climbing up, and they gotta well timing the explosive takedown, which just
Mm.
didn't take it much of this willing to spend like a more energy grinding enough for the opponent.
Yeah, true.
hmm So right now, ladies and gentlemen, I know it's gonna be like a really short, but thank you very much to having like a breakdown for the UFC 301, which is Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, which is they got two amazing fights. Alexander Pantoja versus Steve Urch, and of course Jonathan Martinez versus Jose Aldo. And I gotta tell you, those both fights are getting really interesting, and of course it's gonna be like a serial banger. So thank you, Sai, for giving us the opportunity to break it down for those important fights
You're
on
welcome.
UFC 201 on Brazil, which is, I gotta tell you, in Portuguese, I'm gonna say, muito obrigado. And of course, I gotta tell you for this, I'm very multilingual, but thank you very much to join us for this Let Us Speak special of UFC 301, which is gonna be on Brazil. So thank you very much. And of course, Sai, where can we find you on the social media? And of course, where can you find watching the show, which is one against the fans? So it's gonna be like as usual. They have a watch party and reactions, and of course, they had great point of view, and of course, they just got the side cam, which is very good.
Thanks, Raf. Yeah, the side cam. It's a little new feature that we put onto our shows to give people a different perspective. But yeah, absolutely. Come on this Saturday, 3 a.m. at UK time. I believe if you're looking at Eastern time, it's around 10 p.m. on Saturday, and it's going to be 7 p.m. Pacific time as well. But we're going to be doing a full watch along, so from the main card up to the end. We've just recorded as well, in fact, a breakdown and prediction show. So if you want to hear my picks more in detail from the main card from everyone else who's going to be on it, you can always check that out. We're going to be uploading some clips throughout this week too. So by liking and subscribing, you can stay attuned to all of that. But yeah, as I say, this Saturday or Sunday morning, 3 a.m., we're going to be giving the full live experience to you guys who are still up and with us of the main 301 card event. And we're going to be turning up and turning out. So don't watch alone, watch along.
There you go. And right now, you can follow me on Twitter, El Capitán Rafucho, and of course on Instagram, and of course hit the like button, ring the bell for notifications, and subscribe to my channel, El Capitán Rafucho on YouTube, on the way to 1K subscribers. So it's been like an amazing episode of Let Us Speak, a special breaking down for UFC 301. So I gotta tell you, have a great day, and of course have a great weekend. So salute to you, and of course we'll see you there at the next time.